up against bias against genderqueer people, or in one of my books, health insurance, and this was about 15 years ago, before Obamacare. One of my characters runs into trouble by being diagnosed with cancer and not having adequate health insurance. Now, I didn't intend for that to be a theme, but I was reading the paper, looking at the world around me, and trying to write a realistic book. So, that's, again, it happens to me in an unanticipated way. Because in fact, if I were, and there are writers, I think Barbara Kingsolver is a novelist who bites off big moral questions. And that's, how she begins a book. I think, I'm going to write about, like with Demon Copperhead. There's, I heard a great interview with her. She really wanted to write a book about the opiate crisis in Appalachia. That's a huge subject. I could never dare to do that. So she said it was like a house that she was trying to get into. And she spent 2 years circling that house, figuring out, how do I get into this house that I want to get into? And it was through David Copperfield. It was through Dickens's novel. So that's a very different way of writing. My themes and any moral questions come in at me from the edges through the lives of my characters.
The way you describe your writing, it seems more like real life, where you can try to plan stuff, but you're not really sure what exactly is going to happen, and you're surprised by real world events. I don't know, I just get that sense very strongly. So
yeah, absolutely.
Fair way of describing your writing?
Yeah. Yes, I think that's an accurate description.
Okay, cool, thanks. Also, as you were a painter, I haven't read all your stuff. Have you ever written about a painter, or would you ever write about a painter?
Characters who are artists are very much a part of my work. Now, in 3 Junes, one of the most important character is Fenno McLeod, who's a bookseller. Who doesn't what reader doesn't fantasize about being a bookseller? So that's how I fulfilled that fantasy. One of the other 2 main characters is a young woman who is, in Europe on a fellowship to paint. And that was very much based on my own experience. But I think that the book where I really decided I was going to sort of not tackle that, but where it came in was A House Among the Trees, which is the book that I wrote. It was published in 2017, before Vigil Harbor. And it grew out of my reading an interesting article about the children's book writer Maurice Sendak's estate and what became of his estate, which was a very gnarly and interesting story. So he basically...
Maria, so how's work?
It was 4th period biology. Our students just weren't getting how easily viruses spread. So Miss Bell and I had them role play a zombie virus outbreak. By the time they had all learned the lesson, all the living were dead. Hey, how's your job going?
That big sales meeting I planned? Next year, I might get to go.
Cool. I saw her when I was up there 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mason just had a rowing race up there a couple of
Oh, yeah,
weeks
is
ago.
that Bates, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. She was saying how she really likes it because at Colby, all the professors there are really teach their own research.
Yeah.
So she feels like that would.
Yeah. Yeah. That smaller class size, yeah. It's nice. Yeah. That's awesome. Good. Well, that would be exciting. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Early decision is so stressful. It's like, oh, you're in one basket for like 6 weeks of your life. Yeah. 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 Early action is not fun. Yeah. Eleanor did early action to UMass Amherst and UMass Boston. She also did early decision, but yeah, and like 3 others that she did early action for. I don't even remember which ones they were.
Majority of their applications now for early action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Early
that-
decision, you can only do one because you are, if they accept you, you're going. Unless the finances really don't work out, in which case you could appeal and be like, I cannot, I'm so sorry. But otherwise, you're saying like, if you will take me, I am going. Yeah. One at a time for early decision. There is a second round, usually in mid-December, early January, depending on the school. So if you don't get into your first one, then you can apply for another round at a different school. Also, sometimes they don't bring you in for early decision, but they defer you to regular decision, which just means like, we're not committing now, but we are keeping you in the applicant. Yeah. Yeah. There've been some articles about early decision and how that sometimes is financially a tricky thing. Yeah. Yeah. Colby's a meet 100% need school, right? That was our rule. You can't do early decision unless it's a, we will meet 100% of need. Because then like, okay, it's gonna work out, it's gonna be fine. Yeah. Yeah, it's clunkier. Yeah. Some of the schools will do a pre-read too, not all. We didn't, none of the ones Mason applied to did, and the ones Eleanor's doing don't do it either, but, some will do a pre-read with your finances where they'll say like, if you were accepted, this is roughly what the offer would look like, so you can get a feel before you make the decision to do an early decision one, but depends on the school. It's like a whole crazy, it's 1,000 times worse than when any of us went through this. Just breathe and remember it's all like, none of the decisions are personal. That's what I always told mine, that like, it's not just about, are you a good student, do you have all the extracurriculars, all those things matter, sure, and they're great, but also like they're trying to build a balanced class. So you could be an amazing, perfect fit for that school, but it turns out they already have, 57 science, biology majors coming in, and 30 of them play tennis. And they're like, we really need some kids to do liberal arts and run track, so we're bringing this person in. Like it's, some stuff happens behind closed doors that have nothing to do with how you are as a student or anything. It's just, they have to look at the whole picture. You can't account for that. Like it's just, and all of the schools that you're applying to are gonna be great, and you have a lovely life at all of them. Yep, hey, it's a great safety, right? I'd like to go there. Yep. Yep. I always tell my kids there is no one door that's gonna lead to the magical life. All of these lives, whichever door you wind up walking through, is gonna have tragedy and heartache and joy and beauty and mundaneness, and they're all gonna have that stuff behind every door. It's just gonna be slightly different versions of those things behind the doors. Oh, they cannot, they don't want that. You might see me do that. I told them that I was not anticipating anything like starting very slowly, but, oh, we do? All right. All right.
You guys are all set?
It looks like we've got a quorum. Hold on, let me just make sure now I've got my paper. Yes, okay.
And here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, November 14th meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. School committees and other public bodies may continue to hold remote meetings through March 31st, 2025, under legislation enacted on March 29th, 2023. The statute, Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, extends quorum reductions for remote meetings. All votes while there is remote participation must be made by roll call vote. This meeting is being recorded and aired live by LCTV. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin with correspondence. Would you like to take that one?
Oh, a memo from Mr. Donald Jarvis, Director of Occupational Education at the Lower Pioneer Valley Career and Technical Education Center regarding the Walter E. Quigley Junior Student of the Month Award for October 2024. Long Meadow student honored this month is Nathaniel Vincent in Automotive Tech and Jacob Vutas, Building Property Maintenance 2.
All right, wonderful, congratulations. We're moving on to approval of minutes. We have a recommended motion.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the October 22nd, 2024 school committee meeting as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Estelle?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, public speak. We do not have anyone at home and we do not have anyone here in the room, so we are continuing forward. We have no business with guests. I do not have a chair report for this evening. Do any other school committee members have recognitions or announcements? Seeing none, we're moving on. Superintendent's report.
Just a couple items for you. With elementary parent-teacher conferences this evening. Last week we had middle school parent-teacher conferences. Next Tuesday night, fall concert at Long Meadow High, and then we're preparing for the Thanksgiving break. Also would note that Friday, November 22nd is Chief Dearborn's last day as chief of the Long Meadow Fire Department, and so there'll be a change of command ceremony to confer charge over to soon-to-be Chief John Rigney. So an opportunity to publicly thank Chief Dearborn for his incredible support of Long Meadow Public Schools. He's been an amazing partner and helps keep us safe every day, and looking forward to working with soon-to-be Chief Rigney. The Long Meadow Educational Excellence Foundation formally awarded grants to educators in the amount of over $78,000. A few weeks ago, we had a nice award ceremony, and LEAF over the years has given us well over $1 million towards educational programming and enrichment. So really grateful to Leaf for their ongoing support. Ribbon cutting at the Wolf Swamp Playground, so we have officially cut the ribbon at all 3 elementary playgrounds. Another note of thanks to the school committee, town officials, town departments, and residents that combined to make that a reality. Our guests from Takakawa have joined us, and they have engaged with town officials, town departments, toured some of our classrooms, and so it's been a joy to have them. And I think their time is wrapped up just about. And we had the pleasure of attending the conference of the Mass Association of School Committees and School Superintendents last week. Some great sessions, great keynote speakers, a lot of takeaways, particularly in relation to operations, social emotional supports, partnerships with educators. It was great.
Community members.
Community members, yeah. And departments are busy. The technology office, thanks to them for facilitating the transition of town offices from town hall to community. The community house are now over at Greenwood Center, and so that's been a heavy lift for them, along with DPW. So they seem to be settling in over at Greenwood Center. Our Office of Student and Family Support is grateful to the school committee for supporting the introduction of a additional half-time ELL teacher. And so we're pulling together the schedules to coincide with the availability of that teacher. And I'm really grateful to Nilde Rosari for really, helping us coordinate the program as a whole, and implementing recently Lexia English, which is a tool which will complement CKLA in a way that will allow ELL students to access that curriculum. SEL implementation is well underway with our SEL implementation team. And a very busy PD day on November 5th. Thank you to Beth Nelson for coordinating dozens and dozens and dozens of activities for hundreds of educators. It was a productive day. Training for elementary educators in CKLA. Our middle school educators had a chance to meet with the design team for the middle school project. High school educators were involved in, along with other educators, in UDL training and working on formative assessments tied to the VOG. So lots of good stuff going on over the last few weeks. So that's it.
All right, wonderful. Questions, comments related to the superintendent's report? All right, other reports? No? All right. Student rep report, Andrew.
Right, so to start, just a few updates from the music department that they wanted me to share. On Thursday, November 7th, 66 LHS music students traveled to Boston to attend an open rehearsal of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. And then on Wednesday, November 13th, the Belmont, or wait, that was today? No, that was yesterday, sorry. The Belmont Wind Ensemble visited us for a collaboration with the LHS Wind Ensemble, and they had a concert at 6 p.m. I believe it was informal. And then on Saturday, November 16th, 67 LHS students will travel to Westfield State, where they will audition for spots in the Western District Festival ensembles. And then, as Dr. Say mentioned, on Tuesday, November 19th, 146 LHS musicians will perform for the fall concert at 7 o'clock. And then on the week of November 18th, we will have our Shake a Tail Feather event, where students will be able to buy these turkey feathers, and they can pin it onto a participating teacher's picture. And then by the end of the week, whoever has the most tail feathers on their picture will have to wear a turkey costume for the entire school, for an entire school day. And then the Friday after Thanksgiving, which is November 29th, we will have our Run Like Cat event located outside the high school. This is just a really important event that helps to bring money into the Katerina Boskovic Memorial Foundation, which helps to benefit students in the form of scholarships and other donations for LHS students. And then just a few athletic updates. Winter signups are open, so just get on that. And then football will have their final game of the season, the classic East Long Meadow Showdown on Thanksgiving. And then cross country will travel to Fort Devens, where the boys team will compete at 1:15, and then the girls team, Lucy Connell qualified individually, and she will compete right after that.
All right, wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of exciting things going on.
Sure.
All right, other reports, energy and sustainability, Estelle?
The group was looking for volunteers for their sustainability fair, but no significant changes since their October 17th meeting.
All right, great, thank you. Seal, Michaela?
Hi, we had a meeting last night. It was actually a presentation from the Federation of Children with Special Needs, and the topic was social and emotional learning, which, you know, it's like, oh, can you ever get enough of? The answer is no. I still was like, it's quick, sorry, my dog's barking, of course. It was just really good, and I recommend anyone to check it out. I know it's going to be shared. And then the next meeting is December 11, and it's going over the new IEP.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, we have no other subcommittee reports, and that brings us to ongoing business. Middle school building project. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. And we had pleased to report that town meeting the other night seemed to be a great endorsement of the project from the residents. It was a great conversation about the direction of the project, the milestones that we've hit, some discussion around what we can put in place to make it a safe campus, safe 21st century campus. So really pleased that so many residents turned out and showed an active interest in the project, and so that was great news. The middle school building committee met last night. We received an update from the design team. Our design team has really rolled up their sleeves to set up a series of meetings with our educators and the entire staff at both middle schools. So they're meeting with teams of core academic teachers, teams of science teachers, teams of PE staff, related arts teachers, the front office staff. They've met with tech staff. They've met with custodial and maintenance staff, and so they're gathering a lot of feedback from the folks that will be using the building ultimately. So they're compiling that information, and they've fed that information back to the building committee beginning last night. And then last night, we also heard a presentation from Colliers, our project manager, on whether or not we should pursue a construction manager at risk project delivery method or a design bid build project delivery method. So no decision has been made on that. It will likely come up at the next meeting of the middle school building committee, which is the second Wednesday in December. So,
All right.
yeah.
Great, thank you. Additionally, the MSBA board voted overwhelmingly to approve the town's preferred schematic design for the middle school building project. And we are required to sign and submit a new replacement study enrollment certificate. So we have a possible motion to allow me to sign that on behalf of the committee, if someone would like to make that motion.
I move that the Long Meadow School Committee authorize the chair to sign the Glenbrook Middle School Design Enrollment Certification as presented for submission to the MSBA.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Adam?
Yay.
Estelle?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, wonderful. That brings us to new business. We have a note on the Center School Accelerated Repair Program, another topic of conversation at our recent town meeting. Which one of you is tackling that?
We could
Mr.
maybe
Mazza.
tag team it. We
All right.
received notice from the MSBA on October 30th that our application into the Accelerated Repair Program to address the roof at Center was accepted, so very excited about that. We thought actually we'd be notified sometime in December, so it was encouraging that we received that notification as early as we did on October 30th. So The envelope of Center School clearly needs attention. We're not sure what schedule this will lead towards in terms of when that work will get started, but once you're in the pipeline with the MSBA on the accelerated repair program, it does move as quickly as public projects can move. They will assist us with identifying a design team and ultimately a contractor for the project. But the first step is for the school committee to consider signing the initial compliance certificate. And so that will get us moving towards next steps with the MSBA, which would be the full schematic design of a new roof at Center School. So great news, and the town has already set aside some funds for the feasibility and schematic work that needs to be done. So we're excited about that.
All right, great. We have another possible motion for us to sign that initial compliance certificate and send that on to the MSBA. Anyone would like to make that?
I just want to go on the record right now saying that I've always been a strong supporter of roofs. I think they're very helpful for education. So because of that, I move that the school committee approve the MSBA initial compliance certification associated with Center School Roof Replacement Accelerated Repair Program. And I say that we authorize the chair and the superintendent to sign this certification.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, any discussion related to this? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Adam?
Yay.
Estelle?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. Thank you. All right. We are headed into District Improvement Plan.
All right. That was the most passionate
That was
emotion
fun.
I've ever seen on a
You need a roof.
on a purely bureaucratic
They are very
exercise, so. All right. So pleased to present to the committee for your consideration a district improvement plan, which would carry us through the 26-27 school year. A copy of the full plan is in your packet, and it builds on the conversations that we had when you met with the administrative team as a whole several weeks ago. We also had an opportunity at an earlier meeting to sort of review some of the emerging themes. So hopefully what you see in that plan is familiar based on those recent conversations, and even familiar based on our previous district improvement plan. So the full document is in your packet, but for your consideration, I just want to, if it's okay, just share a quick overview for you. Let me see if I have that. Let's see. All right. There we go. All right. So we've taken the approach of creating 3-year district improvement plans. I think to do them annually is really challenging, because by the time you get to the end of the year, it takes a considerable amount of time to really pull stakeholders together and gather information. 3 years, I've seen districts develop 10-year plans, and it feels like they become sort of meaningless pieces of paper after a couple of years, so that the 3-year timeframe seems to really create a horizon for us that is really more recognizable and achievable. And so that's been the practice in Long Meadow for many, many years, and really it's kind of a standard approach across the Commonwealth. The verbiage of the plan, I dumped it into one of these word clouds just to see what jumped out, and I was pleased to see that student learning was literally at the center of this word cloud, and hopefully you see that it is at the center of the plan as well. So the plan before you this evening, the focal areas really came to us from a number of different factors. We had done a staff and community survey back in February of '24 that gave us some great insights on what the staff and community hoped they would see in our future directions, and I'll share some of that with you shortly. I hope that this feels familiar and lined up with school committee goals, both current and even in recent years. It's a reflection of school improvement plans. My hope would be that at your next meeting, the administrative team would come with their individual school plans, and it would be, hopefully you'd see that it's very much in line with the district improvement plan that is being presented tonight. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has a set of standards for district effectiveness that we reviewed as an administrative team over the summer. Those standards were also the basis for the staff and community survey that we issued back in February. So there's kind of a linkage there. As an administrative team, we dove into a significant amount of achievement and performance data. And that happens, we did that in an extended retreat this past summer, but obviously that happens on an ongoing basis as well. I think our administrators kind of understand where the gaps are and where the improvement targets could be based on achievement and performance data. And then again, we tied a lot of that together with the administrative retreats, the planning retreats that we conducted this past summer. And so this is a different representation of some of the inputs that I just showed you on the previous slide, and a representation of that stakeholder survey. There's a tool here called the Student Outcome Comparison Tool that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education released, I think it was last spring, and it really allows, it's called a heat map, and it really allows districts to zero in on opportunities for improvement and growth. And so if I were to click on this, and I'll spare you that tonight, but it literally lights up the disciplines, the grades, the subgroups that where we might see some underperformance and that we could focus our improvement efforts on. And so that heat map was really interesting to us. We're still building off of the reports that we received, the collaborative equity audit report from March of 21. That was a guiding document for us. It has been a guiding document for us, but there's still some work to be done in that area, and we want to keep that front and center and not let that report slide into the background. Our administrators also engaged in this sort of assessment of our district improvement plan. Again, I'm just showing you a little visual to sort of represent how we unpacked the last plan and where we thought we hit some targets and where we felt like we needed to grow. So this was interesting. I had, in the stakeholder survey, I had asked respondents, what is the single most positive aspect of this district relating to our efforts to support student learning and development? And so I wanted to share with you sort of the themes that jumped out of this part of this open response part of the survey. And the most frequently mentioned positive aspect was the quality and dedication of our educators. And so that was really encouraging to see that, to have that reflected back to us in that survey. The respondents' appreciation for the supportive environments and resources, the diverse and challenging curriculum, particularly the arts and music and extracurriculars were mentioned quite a bit. Communication and feedback was seen as strong, and extracurriculars were also a standout for us. Now, what's interesting is when I show you the next slide, which is the aspects the things that folks would like to see changed, some of the same things come up. So we were spending some time trying to tease that out. I'll give you an example of that. On if you could change one thing about this district that relates to our efforts to support student learning, what would it be? And you'll notice that number 5 is communication and transparency. So we were trying to tease that out, and I think what our takeaway was around communication on individual student progress. I think the feeling was that communication about what we do and the activities and the parents feel like they know what's happening in their schools, but maybe some better sense of their individual child's progress. So that was interesting. I think families, want to see us continue to focus on safety. That came out quite a bit in the survey. Improving curriculum and academic rigor, really kind of getting back to the bread and butter of curriculum and ensuring that we had high quality, rigorous curriculum in place. And so those are some of the things, I won't read everything on the slide, but some of the things that we heard that was reflected back to us from that survey. And so pleased to present to the committee tonight a district improvement plan that includes 4 overarching goals. One goal relating to curriculum, second area focusing on inclusive practice, third area focusing how we can continue to work on embedding the vision of the graduate into our daily practice, and then a strong focus as well on creating supportive and safe learning environments. And so each of those 4 areas includes some intermediate objectives and then some indicators of success, like how do we know that what needs to be done is probably a better way of saying it to achieve the goals that we've identified for ourselves. So it's a fairly dense document. This was my best effort at sort of summarizing that in the area of curriculum, ensuring that taking the next step, I should say, with MTSS processes. MTSS refers to the multi-tiered systems of support, ensuring that we have a continuum of support and services academically and social, emotionally, and behaviorally for kids. Universal design for learning. What's the next step? How do we ensure that we have provided sufficient professional development, but we're also seeing it in action at the classroom level? And then curriculum renewal, which I know has been a point of emphasis for the school committee, making sure that we have high-quality, rigorous curriculums in place. And so having a real clearly articulated plan for that, and the plan spells out a couple of focal areas for us in terms of curriculum renewal. Inclusive practice, supporting the diverse identities. When I think about identities, we're thinking about the identities of children as learners, as people, and making sure that we're being responsive to those identities, responsive to their academic identities, their ethnic, their cultural, their racial identities, and making sure that children see themselves in the instruction, they see themselves in the content of their classes. Recruitment, retention, and growth. It's a narrower teacher pipeline, and so we're just going to have to be, I think, more active as administrators to really get out there and make sure that we're representing Longmeadow Public Schools effectively, and that we are actively recruiting at area colleges and job fairs. Committing to inclusive practice through our commitment to the new IEP process, which I think the sense is that if we're committed to that new IEP process, that it will naturally lead towards more inclusive practice, particularly giving students ownership of the goals of their IEP. That is a big point of emphasis. Embedding the VOG, opportunities for deeper learning. When I say deeper learning, it's an umbrella term to think about learning opportunities that are engaging, relevant, rigorous, project-based, authentic, those real opportunities for kids to dive deep into their learning. I think with the new middle school, we've got a great opportunity to really embed that further. And then assessment and reporting. How do we, we're moving past that stage where we are orienting people to the VOG. Now, how do we assess it? How can we report it back to families in terms of the competencies that kids are developing? Safe and supportive environment, Yale Ruler. We've talked about anti-bullying, bias, and hate. Education for staff, for kids, and parents. Awareness for staff, kids, and parents. we're all in this together, and if everybody has a clear idea of what our commitments are to creating schools that are free from hate and bias, then that's a big part of the work ahead. And then digital safety, which some of these slides below kind of just go just a touch deeper on some of the commitments. So just backing up, goal 1, curriculum renewal, MTSS processes and universal design. Panorama Education is a tool that we are looking to roll out in the next few years. Panorama Education is essentially a data warehouse that will allow, best way to explain it, sort of one-stop shopping for educators to monitor student progress and growth and create interventions. I depicted the Curate here. Curate is a state organization that assesses curriculum to make sure that it is rigorous and high quality in nature. And so, again, a point of emphasis for the committee has been to make sure that when we bring curriculum renewals forward, that those proposals reflect the standards of vetted, researched curriculum, and also are reflective of our commitment to the VOG, our commitment to universal design. This is sort of the best way of sort of representing that when we think about universal design for learning. Do kids have multiple means to be engaged in class? Are they presented information in multiple ways? And can they express their learning in multiple ways? And that's the challenge of education nowadays, is to make sure that kids feel that connection. And when you design universally, you're creating classrooms that are responsive to kids' individual identities as learners and as people. And so we are at the beginning stages of entering a partnership with CAST, which is a well-known provider of professional development in the area of UDL. And so that's goal 1. Goal 2, again, supporting the various learning styles of students, their identities, recruitment, retention, the implementation of the new IEP. Goal 3, embedding the VOG. I want to highlight sort of that summative, informative assessment practices. So summative assessments are end of unit or end of course assessments that give us a clear idea of what a child has learned over a long period of time. Formative assessments are meant to inform instruction. They happen midway in the midst of a unit of instruction, but they can inform the instruction to make sure that we're being responsive. So how do we create assessment practices that really zero in on the competencies that are articulated in that vision of the graduate? And goal 4, the sort of a comprehensive approach to creating supportive school climates and safe learning environments. And there's a sort of a list of some of the activities that we see rolling out in the next 3 years. Yale Rulers, See Something, Say Something, cell phone review, which again I know is a point of emphasis for this committee. We're committed to that. Cybersecurity, our tech staff is raising our collective awareness on making sure that we have a safe network that secures the assets of the district and also keeps kids safe. Social media awareness and education, data privacy is also something that we need to continue to focus on, that we're keeping kids safe and we're keeping their identity safe if they happen to be using some educational sites or software. So it's a lot. We feel like this district improvement plan charts a course. Again, I hope all of this is familiar and sort of reflective of the conversations that we've had recently. My hope is that this plan gets all of our arrows pointed in the same direction. I think of these in smaller arrows as our schools, and it's more arrows than schools, but I think of them as our schools, but you know, they're all individual, they have their own unique identities, but we're all heading in the same direction. When you're headed in the same direction, it's just a better use of resources and training and professional development and staffing. And connecting, pardon the typo there, but connecting district goals with school goals and educator goals. And when all of those things are turning together, it creates energy and growth and improvement. So really pleased with the really huge input of the community. Our administrators have been at this for months now, sort of trying to pull this all together to put it together in one coherent form, and hopefully it charts a course and gets us pointed in the right direction. And happy to answer any questions you might have, and if it's for your consideration, if you felt that it was in good shape, potentially could consider it for a vote tonight, or if you wanted to bring it back at your next meeting, that's an option as well.
All right, we'll open up to questions and/or comments. Adam?
I guess, I mean, first of all, let me just say, this is a very impressive presentation document that's been made. It you know, takes into account a lot of different bodies of input to come together and to do a very difficult task, even over 3 years. I think that you know, is a profound commitment, what we're putting forth here. What, you know, we talk about summative and formative assessments, you know, going through 24 to 27, what, you know, how do we have in place in the interim, almost like a formative assessment to see if we need, you know, more support in one area for teachers, or if there's, you know, something that is not working as well? How are we assessing that?
Right. I think it depends on the area the focal area, right? So if it's an area relating to student well-being, so we have numerous climate surveys that help us understand if kids feel safe in school. If it's relating to academic performance, just regular and ongoing review of student performance data. I guess maybe this is where your question's leading. Like, I wouldn't mind having the flexibility to tweak and adjust the plan, let's say this time next year, or this time in 2026, you know, just to make sure that we're, you know, I see it as mostly fixed, but there's probably some pieces of this that maybe could be fluid and could be adjusted from year to year based on what we're seeing in a given year, right? We don't know what's around the bend, right?
I was thinking more, you know, what my mind immediately went to was just the academic rigor. So I didn't know, was there any, you know, surveying of the parents to see, you know, if they felt like we were meeting, you know, the goals, or if there was any other, I mean, obviously academic performance is, you know, you want to make sure that you're not, that the rigor isn't going above and beyond, and we're asking too much of our students. But I just didn't know if we had anything in place.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think when the administrators come back to you with their individual school plans, you might get a little bit more sense of that. Like, okay, you know, so elementary literacy, we are in year 1. How are we going to know it's working? I think that's a fair question to ask of our principals next week. And even, you know, I'm thinking about English language learner services. You know, you've made an investment. How is that investment reflected in the services that kids are getting this year, and what does that look like for next year? So, yeah, I think if I could maybe ask our administrators to kind of sort of take that question on with their individual school plans, that would be, yeah.
It's not that this is just a curiosity of mine. It's not like I see that there's something missed. No, everything seems to be very well spelled out, the goals, how we're assessing. I just wanted to know in the, you know, from year to year, was there anything that we can do just to get more data?
Yeah. And this, and certainly there's plenty of work that happens that's not even represented here, right? So,
right.
Like, for example, what's not in here really is the construction of the middle school. Like I included the academic side of the middle school project, but yeah, so there's certainly things that we could.
No, it'd be the size of the budget if you accounted for, I mean, it'd be a massive, you'd have to wheel it in here, yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions and/or thoughts?
I'm happy to see about cybersecurity and data privacy of the students.
Yeah.
It's really important. A lot of our information is sold to third parties and people don't realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I helped out with the, there was a cyber ransomware attack in City of Hartford school, for the school like a few years ago.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah, I'm glad it's there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know what the training will look like, but
Yeah, the state offers some free training, and we've accessed it in the past, but it almost feels like something you have to revisit. And we have some data privacy protocols in place that we have some work to do in terms of helping the community and even staff understand why we have those data privacy protocols. So there's certain sites and certain software that we just want to make sure that if we're using it, it is recognized as a service that protects students' personal information.
Well, I'm glad to see,
I think there's a way.
Oh, Michaela raised
Oh,
her
Michaela.
hand.
yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm glad to see that a lot of familiarity, to see things that have been kind of the focus of the committee and the school district over the last few years brought forward, and moving on to the next steps. So data-driven decision-making and practice, enhancing that with new tools like Panorama, new focuses like SEL data and behavioral data, things like UDL being kind of refocused and thought about how can we expand that out to the vision of the graduate. So that sort of expansion of work that's happened, and finding new ways to make that, increasingly relevant and also up to date with the new information and technologies and programs that we have. Michaela?
Yeah, thanks. I had one question about the audit from 2011.
Yeah.
I mean 2021, not 2011. So is that something that is regularly like assessed and checked back with, that you meet with them to kind of help target the next direction and where to go there?
We certainly regularly check back on that report, and I think it is informing this plan. We don't check back with the organization on that. That's something that we could do. We do partner with CLE still for some staff mentoring and for early career administrators, but right now, that report is in our hands, and we're sort of following up on it based on the directions and recommendations that came out of it. We haven't really gone back to that organization to sort of check back in on our progress.
And then, thank you. And then I also, just obviously, I think kind of reiterating what Nicole said, it's, the UDL and EOG and MTSS, all the wonderful acronyms. But I feel like they're, getting to the next level and all of that. And it's wonderful to see. And actually, like, last night in the SEAL meeting, it was really one of those moments where when you're in an advocate, a special ed advocate is presenting to you about what's best for students with disabilities, and everything that they're saying about social and emotional learning hits the target of what the district has done to adopt a new curriculum in that way. Like, it talked about how schools and classrooms should have mood thermometers. It talked about how important social and emotional learning really is to a person's success in life. So I really, it was so nice to see that, and when you think of those wheels, how important all those connections and the same common language and goals are. And so with that being said, I think I would like to see this executed in the the school level kind of like thinking about conferences, because I feel like conferences and like communication with parents comes up a lot, and like how can we make like the VOG and UDL like engagement, representation, action, and expression, like how can students' voices use those things to show their parents what they're learning? And like it just kind of seems, especially like you said, the middle school being a focal point, and how we're like looking so forward to that building. How can we start now working at the middle school level, making those things like really, really innovative, since that's our goal?
Completely agree. I think sort of having the reporting that we do to parents reflective of these goals makes so much sense. And some of that, requires us to convey the vision of this plan effectively, to make sure that parents understand that we do expect kids to be involved in authentic, deeper learning. And it's not just about test scores and MCAS performance. We're trying to develop the whole child. And then, so what does our communication to families look like? What does a parent-teacher conference look like in 2024? I think that's something that I hope that this plan points us towards that. So I totally agree with you.
All right. Yeah, I think in that note too, kind of what Michaela was saying, is that focus on goal 2, that idea of events that are focused on bringing families on board with more of the curriculum updates that are happening. So those opportunities for parents to engage with the literacy curriculum, to engage with how that's being taught at their school, to engage with Yale Ruler and how that's being used in the school. Right. Opportunities for them to really become familiar with what is happening on a daily basis, and also how to support that best at home, are really important. All right, other thoughts, comments, feedback? Andrew?
I just had a quick question about sort of what you mean when you talk about academic rigor in here, because I think at least at the high school and what we talked about in school council with Principal Landers is, at least in terms of like, do you mean like course offerings or working within our current courses or something else? Because I think a big conversation we have in school council is about not offering too many more rigorous courses, because that can harm students in the college admission process, and I think we do also have a very competitive student body already, and I think sort of upping our academic rigor would probably make that even more competitive for students. So could you sort of expand on what exactly you mean when you talk about academic rigor?
Yeah, I think it means a few different things. I think, it shouldn't mean just turning the dial up to get kids to work harder and chase more honors classes and AP classes, right? I think it should mean that kids have opportunities in a classroom to pursue a level of rigor that makes sense for them. So if you think about it, so step aside from the high school for a minute, but in a fourth grade classroom, right? Do we, by applying UDL, are you creating opportunities for kids to pursue the level of challenge that makes sense for them? And so then you can extend that, what does that look like in a high school? I don't think, I think frankly in a high school, it's almost that concept of deeper learning ought to be the point of emphasis, creating opportunities for kids to be involved in project-based, highly engaging, relevant opportunities to learn. It's the LHS, and this stuff is happening, right? But it's the LHS capstone class, which is, just getting out of the gate. It's the LHS internship opportunities. It's the opportunities in all existing classes where teachers are creating these chances for kids to really be deeply immersive in their learning. And it kind of ties into, when you have high stakes testing hanging over your head, sometimes that can compromise deeper learning, right? And so it really shouldn't be about chasing down as many AP classes as possible. It really should be about giving kids those chances to really find a pathway, like what's my passion and how can I pursue it. So got a lot of work to do. I mean, in a community, in this community that has historically, kind of approached it the way you were describing, that, we have to, encourage folks to understand this vision of what we're trying to achieve.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a very good point, though. I think
Yeah.
rigor sometimes maybe is a word that is a little bit trickier
Yeah.
to
It's very
find
subjective.
ourselves on the
Yeah.
same page with.
Yeah.
And what it should mean is more like what is being talked about here. Rigorous
Yeah.
should mean engaging and challenging and relevant
Yeah.
to you individually,
Yeah.
not just harder.
Yeah, that's
Which,
yeah. That's what this sort of jumped out at me on the page because I was pretty sure that was sort of the answer you're giving, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
clarify because I do think as students and looking back, like just looking overall, has like when I think of rigor, I do think of hardest courses at the hardest level, etc.
Yeah.
So
it's a great point to bring
Yeah,
up.
I don't think rigor can get any better than some of the phrases that you've used, which I'm going to be stealing immediately, about deeper and authentic learning.
Yeah.
When I'm selecting people for admission for the University of Massachusetts Medical School, I don't care at all about their test scores. I want to see them demonstrate that deeper and authentic learning. I can't tell you how many physicians I've worked with who had great test scores, but they have trouble with addition. So,
Right.
yeah. That's beautiful. I almost cried when you said that.
All right. Any further discussion related to the district improvement plan and/or possible motions?
I feel moved. I feel so moved about this that I move on the recommendation of the superintendent and the administrative team that the school committee approve the 2024 to 2027 school district improvement plan as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Adam?
Yay.
Estelle?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
And yes, for me as well.
Thank you.
All right. Great work. I look forward to hearing from our building principals in our next meeting and seeing that alignment. I have enjoyed over the years seeing how that this sort of sets that stage for that to then move down to the building level and down to the professional development offerings, curriculum offerings, et cetera, that we see. So that alignment is really doing very well, and I look forward to seeing that with the next one as well. All right. FY26 capital plan. I have a sneaking suspicion that's going to be you, Mr. Mouser.
That is me.
All right.
Good evening. In your packet tonight is a document reflecting our FY26 capital request. Each year about this time, we bring forward to the school committee a list of projects that we will submit to the town manager for consideration for funding. It will go through a process where the town manager will accumulate all of the department requests and put forward a proposed list to the capital planning committee for their review. And they will then meet with the departments, ask questions, look for additional information to help understand the needs and the project, and recommend to the select board which project should be included on the annual town meeting warrant for funding. The allocation amount that is included in FY25's budget is about $2.1 million. Each year it goes up slightly, but not a substantial amount. The request you have in front of you would be for consideration for funding in FY26. I will say I've made a couple of grammatical corrections to the document in front of you, just so you know. But I would say the document's broken up into 3 sections. Page 1 and the top of page 2 would be the prioritized or the projects we are submitting for consideration in FY26. The rest of page 2, 3, and 4 would be projects that we find are in need and have some value and merit, but are not at the point where we are recommending moving forward for consideration at this point for FY26 funding. But hopefully we'd be able to say we could address them over the course of the next 5 years, but depending upon the cost of projects and other needs throughout town, I wouldn't say that's an absolute certainty. And then the last page is an update on projects that were funded in the past and a status of where they might fall in terms of either completion or waiting additional action. So tonight you have 9 projects that we are submitting. Realistically, we will be lucky if we get 1 or 2 of them. Again, based on the cost of the projects and the total pot of money that's available, it's I'm sure a very difficult task for the town manager to go through the needs of all the departments, DPW, public safety, Parks and Rec, to kind of assess what needs to move forward and what might be able to wait for another year for funding. There also may be opportunities in terms of conversations I've had with the town manager of maybe some other funding sources that might be able to address some of the needs we're presenting tonight. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I think as she's looking at all of the requests and the total cost for the project, she's going to recommend moving forward. So I thought I would quickly go through the 9 projects we have for consideration. They are broken up into 3 categories. The first category being safety. It would be for additional funding for security cameras and related equipment. We did have a $200,000 project request in FY25. It got scaled back at town meeting, and we had about $80,000. On Tuesday, town meeting appropriated the additional $120,000. That funding is to replace all of the cameras here at the high school and at the police station. This additional funding request of $75,000 would be to add or provide additional camera coverage in the other buildings, both school and town facilities. The $200,000 really did not provide us that opportunity. It replaced the back end, the servers, our storage capacity, and the existing cameras. This funding request would be to provide additional coverage that has been requested, but we haven't been able to address because of funding. The second item is for some upgrades to the PA system at Williams. It's always difficult with the hope of a new middle school. How much do we invest into the current buildings? We have made some investments in this system, but it would benefit with some updated wiring, some additional speakers, both interior and exterior, for that building. But again, we try to do what we can with what funding we have when when it's not recommended. The next category are facility-related requests, and in this category we have 4 building projects related. The first is for the upgrade of the HVAC chiller system at Blueberry. Similar, and it has a price tag of $700,000. It is similar to a request that was approved for Wolf Swamp to upgrade their system, which we anticipate will happen during the summer of 2025. These systems are new part of the building renovations that were done in the early 2000s, so they're getting 20 years or so and definitely in need of replacement. The issue we had this summer over at Wolf Swamp with humidity levels and the system not being able to keep the temperature at a comfortable level in the building was due to the lack of the chiller working at full capacity. The second item is for the implementation of the changes to the stadium field here at the high school. The town meeting funded, I believe, $60,000 or so for an assessment of the field, and a recommendation is forthcoming in terms of whether or not or what changes should be made to make that field better for utilization, whether it be a synthetic or staying with the natural grass field. but with either pulling up and putting down different sod. And so this, we don't have the report yet, so I don't have a dollar amount, but I would say based on conversations with the firm doing the assessment, it will be in the millions, especially if you include the track, the bleachers, lighting, and accessibility around the field. It will be extensive. So, but I think it's important that, it's communicated that we do have needs associated to that field, whatever the recommendation is. The third request is for carpet replacement. This would be, say, phase 1 to address the areas that are in most need. I would say specifically at the elementary schools. The request is for $100,000. Based on moisture issues and age of carpet, either converting to tile or some other flooring where possible, but replacing those areas that are most need, where it's either a safety trip hazard and or a health issue. We'd like to get moving on funding for that request. And the third item, which has been on our capital plan for maybe 10 years, is painting throughout the district. Capital has historically said they don't believe it's a capital eligible expense. They feel it's an operating budget expense, and I remind them that there are no funds in any budget, in any department's operating budget, to address the needs district and town-wide for the painting needs. There was some funds appropriated by the town from some ARPA money. The town manager indicated maybe there might be some funding available to at least continue some of the initial painting that was done this past summer at a couple of the elementary schools. But it really hit main hallways. It didn't even get into classrooms. So all of the buildings are in need of painting throughout the buildings. And then the third category is technology related. There are 3 projects. The first is replacement of our wireless access points and switches. This would be a two-phase project. This would be phase 1 with a request of about $260,000. And again, this would be replacement throughout all the school and town buildings of our wireless access points and the necessary switch gear associated to those access points. The current equipment is about 5 years old. I'm told that's about the expected useful life. We would also want to take advantage of federal E-rate funding, which allows for reimbursement up to a certain percentage for eligible projects. So funding would be used to help offset some of the cost in both years of the project. And then the second project would be for some enhancement for replacement of projection systems throughout the district, especially at the elementary level, but also here at the high school where they have smart boards throughout all of the classroom instructional spaces. The systems are starting to die. They're getting on 10 years old. The ones here at the high school, the ones in the elementary schools are even older than that. So we have been replacing them as needed, but looking for a more comprehensive approach to be able to kind of proactively go out and do it instead of waiting for them to die and have a few systems on hand to replace them. So phase 1 would be a request for $50,000 to address the most, the areas where the systems are in the worst conditions. And the last project is for some upgrades to the network at the police station, $25,000. It would be for a designated fiber line directly into the police station. Currently it runs, I believe, through the town hall and then over to the police department, with the uncertainty of what the use may be of town hall now that they've relocated to Greenwood. The tech director thought it would be helpful and for their connection to Westcom to have a direct fiber connection into that location. would also provide for replacement of some surveillance equipment and the remote access control system that is tied into Westcom. So those are the 9 projects that are put forward for consideration. The list is comprised with input from administrators. I send it out to them early in the fall saying, here is the status of the projects from last year. Do you have any new projects? Do you want to advocate for moving something into the prioritized list? Why? We also meet with DPW to understand some of the facility needs that they're looking at. I'm sure to Adam's disappointment, the roofs did not make it into the prioritized list, but they're there because I think this is a mechanism to kind of convey our needs across all the buildings, even large. I mean, any roof project itself would be more than the total capital budget in 1 year. Looking at the accelerated repair program through MSBA are opportunities to help maybe move some of these larger projects along. The windows at Center School are just about getting to the age now of being eligible for a project request through that program. But as much as it's about conveying our needs, but also, identifying those that we feel need the most attention, in the near future. So I can try to answer any questions you may have. I know it's a lot of information, but that is what we're proposing for FY26.
All right. Questions from folks?
Regarding the study on the field, the report to be hopefully back in late fall, is that late fall 24, 25?
Yes, I would say within the next few weeks. We met with the consultant out on the field earlier in the fall. I was interviewed, Marty and I were both interviewed by them a couple of weeks ago. I think they were just kind of pulling together the last pieces of their report and recommendations.
I mean, given the size of that proposed project, I figured that was going to be at the annual town meeting.
I think we need the report to kind of help assess what the needs are and potential cost associated to each of those various areas that we mentioned.
Yeah.
So it might be something we see coming possibly in the spring for funding or consideration.
Other questions?
I'm just curious, maybe offline, I don't know, maybe talk to whoever proposed the technology and just to see, if they would be fiber ready, like next few years. I don't know what they're proposing with the, for the current network infrastructure update, but eventually, with the town passing the, article about fiber.
We currently do have a fiber connection loop that it's situated here right now. We're planning on moving, we're in the process of moving that to the DPW. And so I think they're just waiting for some connections there to relocate. I think the servers are there, but not operating yet. But
yeah, because I didn't even know if the internet is funded by Comcast here for the school or anything.
It is not. We use a different vendor for that access.
Must be lovely.
Yeah.
And that is one of the eligible expenses that we can use E-rate funding for, is to offset some of that, our internet connection annual expenses.
Okay.
But yes, we most certainly can connect you to the Director of Technology who would be able to address some of those questions.
For the PA speakers, if that would be able to move through, would those be the right kind of speakers that we then just move on to the next building?
Highly doubtful.
They'd be going to a different building in the district?
We might be able to save them and utilize them for replacement in other locations because it would have to work with the current system.
Yeah.
I mean, from my understanding is some of the current speakers aren't working, and it isn't just the speaker, it's the wire connection that would have to be run to get them operable. And I think the same with the issue outside. I think there's very limited amount of speakers on the exterior portion of the building. So during our announcement, anybody outside wouldn't be able to hear, which is why we have them take radios with them. So in case there's a need to get a hold of somebody, they communicate over the radio.
Okay.
The system, the PA system that we're talking about, this isn't, is it, just not knowing anything about this, emergency notification, is it run through this system? Is it a separate system?
No, I mean, we don't, the buildings are so old that our emergency systems aren't necessarily tied into the PA.
Okay.
Announcements can be made through the phone system also. There's an all-call that allows that communication. This would be kind of the speakers that are up in the ceiling or on the wall to make daily announcements and so forth, so.
But the fire alarms, the...
Fire alarm is a separate system,
Okay.
not run through the PA system.
Okay, good.
Other questions, thoughts?
Parliamentary procedure question. You know, as far as the motion that may or may not be presented here for this, is that motion, would that motion be in support of all 9 measures?
Yeah, it would be to, I guess, approve the capital project list for submission to, the prioritized capital project list for submission to the town manager. Basically saying, here are 9 projects we want you to consider for inclusion and funding for FY26.
And then the town manager decides of those 9 what...
Again, through conversations with us and DPW and other departments, gathering more information. There are forms that we would submit with each one, kind of outlining our reasons why and the priority in that. But again, with $2 million and knowing the needs every year, that $2 million is used to fund. Some of it goes towards street paving, some of it towards sidewalks, guardrails, fire truck, DPW vehicles. It quickly gets eaten up. So that's why I said at the beginning, 1 or 2 projects, you know, is usually what we're able, especially when it's a $700,000 request. We're talking about a third of the allocation going to one project.
What, while we're on that, what would it be replaced with, the HVAC system at Blueberry?
It would, so my understanding is the current system is using like a Freon system, and I guess we're looking to phase that out. I think the chiller itself would also have to be replaced, so I can't give you the exact technical answer as to what would replace it, but it would have the system operational more to the level that we need it working at.
I just feel like whatever we end up replacing these things to always ends up next on the EPA's list for...
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. Well, I mean, are there...
Any other questions, Michaela? Okay.
I am again moved. I move that the school committee approve the prioritized FY26 capital projects list as presented and dated 13th of November 2024.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Adam?
Yay.
Estelle?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
And yes for me as well.
Thank you.
All right, FY25 budget. We voted on this also at town meeting related to Chapter 70 increased funds. So we might have a little bit more money. One of you like to speak to what that could look like in our own FY25 budget?
Sure, I can start.
Sure.
So based on the action of Article 2 being approved at the town meeting on Tuesday, there is an additional $125,000 that's been approved for our FY25 general fund. The school committee will have to amend our budget at some point to include this additional funding in whichever lines are appropriate based on the needs. I think it probably would make sense to go back and look at some of the areas I think identified at the end of the superintendent's presentation back in last winter, February, of areas where there were probably some needs that we weren't able to fully incorporate for funding in FY25, maybe some behavioral supports. The school committee also approved the ELL position a couple meetings ago. That did not exist in our budget at the time, so some funding might be allocated towards that. I know there's always discussion around curriculum replacement cycle funding. Our budget has very small amount associated to that. That doesn't come near the cost of the needs regarding curriculum adoption. And athletics is always a topic of conversation in terms of funding and needs. So those are just some areas. Dr. O'Shea, I don't know if there's
No,
others.
you hit it. Yeah.
But
Well done.
For the
I
tiny
wouldn't-
100.
yeah.
so I would
So
say
this will
we'll
go to
probably,
finance sub?
refer to finance sub where we can kind of have greater detailed discussion about those areas and bring back a recommendation as to where to incorporate them into the budget and then an associated revision to FY25's budget at some point down the road.
All right. Any questions related to that?
Just thank you. It's a lot of hard work you guys do on this.
We're grateful that the residents supported the article
Yeah.
that increased our budget. It's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Glad to have a little bit more ready to be put to use.
Yep.
All right, we are now moving on to our next agenda item, an administrative assistant retirement. I'm going to let you speak to
Sure.
that first, and then I'll
I
speak
tried to
it.
lose this letter.
Same.
We received notice that Diane Draganis, who serves as executive assistant to the superintendent and to the school committee, has provided us notice of her retirement on July 25th, 2025. So there will be many opportunities to thank Diane for her amazing career, but certainly don't want to miss this opportunity. As Diane articulated in her letter, she has worked with 5 superintendents, 5 business managers, 6 curriculum directors, 7 directors of technology, 4 directors of people services, 7 facility directors, one of which is her son, 1 director of student and family support. So that speaks to Diane's longevity and what a rock she has been for this district.
Mm-hmm.
She's sort of at the front porch of Long Meadow Public Schools and is a wonderful recipient of an incredible amount of phone calls and emails and requests and questions from staff and from families, and but also is that quiet engine that kind of keeps things moving. Diane's heard me say this, but it's the best way I can explain Diane's role here is you can take me out of the district for a few days and no one notices. In fact, people might be grateful. You take Diane out of the district for even a day and the questions pile up. She knows our contracts and our policies is better than any administrator probably in the district. So we're going to miss Diane greatly, and I'm grateful for all the professional and personal support she's extended to me over the years. And I know she's a asset to the school committee as well. So.
Have we received any designs for the statue yet?
They're in progress.
Same person who did the Miami Heat statue.
I'm going to jump on the bandwagon to say there's definitely more to say down the line, and we have all the way until July 25th to get to say this. But we are thrilled for you that you will be enjoying a retirement. We are very sad for us. And I've had the privilege of working with Diane over the last 5 years. She has been with Long Meadow Public Schools since 2000, 24 years of service to Long Meadow Public Schools, and 6 years before that for the town of Long Meadow. So a 30-year career in Long Meadow of service and devotion, and just I have enjoyed getting to know you, and I am continually in awe of it. Is impossible. I don't know that there's any question I've asked that you have not had an answer to. So just the amount of support and the knowledge that Diane brings to our district and to our school committee is not possible to put fully into words. And we are so appreciative of the service you've given and wish you a wonderful retirement full of time with your lovely family and joy and adventures and all good things. So.
Thank you very much. I can't believe it's been 30 years, or it will be in April. It went by really fast, but I started as a mom job, working
10 hours a week in the accounting office, and then just quickly moved from one position to the next position, and came to the school district, and I met so many awesome people along the way. And I wouldn't dare name names because I'd forget half of them. But I want to say thank you to everybody for my unexpected career. And just remember, I'm not leaving till July of 2025. So hopefully that will provide everyone, including me, the time to get ready for the transition. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we do have to actually accept the notice of retirement, much as we might try to lose it ourselves. So there is a motion for that.
I move that the school committee accept the notice of retirement from the administrative assistant extraordinaire, the superintendent and school committee, Ms. Diane Giorgantis, effective July 25th, 2025.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Adam?
Yay.
Estelle?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well.
Grudgingly.
Really? But happily also.
Yes.
Grudgingly and happily.
Here, here.
That's right.
All right, we are heading out of our regular meeting and into an executive session. We have a possible motion related to that. We will not be returning to open session.
I move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, 21A, Purpose 2, to conduct a strategy session in preparation with collective bargaining with units A, B, C, D, E, F, and H, and Purpose 7, consideration of release of executive session minutes of previous meetings, not to reconvene in open session.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Adam?
Yay.
Estelle?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. We will see you all in almost 2 weeks, just before Thanksgiving. Have a lovely evening. Thank you, Andrew.